Welcome back to the Literary Lori YouTube channel. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Literary Lori, aka Lori Eltharps, and I have some confessions to make. Let me just start out. If you're new here, this all looks normal to you. If you are a regular, I am sitting in a lower chair. Like I'm literally sitting on a stool today because I just felt like that was more appropriate for confession. I'm not Catholic. I don't even know if any other religions do confessionals, but like I just felt this felt appropriate to like take myself down to prepare my confessions. So this is kind of a confessional therapy session, but I think my confessions about my current state of affairs as a novelist might help some of you. So that's why I'm going public with my confessions. Let's get to them. All right, confession number 1, I'm calling this the I am actually not an aspiring novelist. Okay, so almost on like all of my bios, social media bios, and the way I introduce myself these days is like aspiring novelist, wannabe novelist. But that's not true. My agent keeps reminding me, she keeps saying, Lori, you already are a novelist. You've already published a novel. That novel is still in print. That novel is called Substitute Me. You write novels. You're a novelist. End of story. Stop saying you want to be a novelist. So that hit me really hard because that is something I do with all of my coaching clients. Like the first thing I make them do is claim the identity of writer. I know for a lot of writers, they think, well, I'm not published yet. I haven't published a book yet. I haven't been published even, like I don't even have an article published. And I tell them that claiming your identity as a writer, you need to claim it. You need to proclaim it. You do not need somebody else to tell you that you are a writer. If writing is how you express yourself, if writing is the gift you've been given, then you are a writer. Nobody else can tell you you're a writer, and nobody can take that away from you. It is an identity that you claim. So is novelist. And so I know that ever since I was 8 years old and fell in love with the written word, like with writing, because my mom bought me a typewriter when I was 8 and I started writing stories right away. I knew I wanted to be a fiction writer. I knew I wanted to be a novelist, not a short story writer, but a novelist. That was always the goal. So I have published a novel. I've written other novels. So why am I saying I'm an aspiring novelist? Doing these confessions and talking myself through this, I realized I know I'm a novelist. Like I know that. So what is it that I really am? What am I waiting for? And I realized that what I am is not an aspiring novelist. I am an aspiring full-time novelist. There, I said it out here on the YouTube streets. I want to be a full-time novelist. I want to make my living. I want to get paid for writing novels all the time. Now, I'm not saying that I have to be a millionaire by writing novels, but like I want my primary source of income. I want my primary writing to be fiction. And that seems audacious. That seems like I'm being delulu, as the young people are saying today. Because one, the publishing industry is shrinking. People don't read anymore, apparently. I just read an article that said the full-time career author is going the way of the dinosaur. So why would I think now of all times that I should be aspiring to be a full-time fiction writer? Because I want to. Because that's my dream, and it always has been my dream. Because I see other people doing it, and why not me? I see white authors doing it. I see Black authors doing it. I see men, women, like it is possible. So why not me? And it's funny because I realized in this confessional that I didn't say that out loud because I didn't want people to call me delusional. I didn't want people to call me foolish, stupid. Like that's a silly thing. That's not going to happen. So I kept it to myself, and I would just say I'm an aspiring novelist when really I meant I'm an aspiring full-time novelist. So I realized that keeping that a secret, keeping that hidden, That's not how things manifest. That's not how things happen. What does it say in the Bible? Closed mouths don't get fed. Maybe that's not in the Bible, but it should be. The truth is, if I don't tell people what my dreams are, if I don't make my dreams known, nobody's going to make my dreams come true for me. If I make it clear that this is what I want, then my agent, my editors, people who know me, people in the industry will perhaps give me opportunities that they wouldn't have given me if they thought, oh, Lori just, she's a journalist and, she just does fiction on the side. If that's the vibe I'm giving off, why am I going to ascend to the goal? Why am I going to achieve the goal I really want? So I am now going to stop saying aspiring novelist and claim the identity that I want, which is aspiring full-time novelist. All right. So that was confession number 1. Moving on. Confession number 2, and this one hurts. This one is painful, but it is true. I dropped the ball on my dream. Yeah, I really did. So 10 years ago, in 2010, my first novel came out, Substitute Me. And I had a big launch party. I'm going to put a picture up. You see, there's a picture of me at my launch party for Substitute Me. It was in Harlem. It was a swanky restaurant. It was like all the things. I did the book tours, and don't get me wrong, like it wasn't like they were sold out audiences at all. There were events where there was like 3 people in the audience, but still did the book tour. And like the culmination was I was a featured author at the Miami Book Fair. That was huge to get that level of attention for the book for me. And when you're a featured author there, you're a panel. I was a panelist. I was invited to all the events, all the parties. There was like a rooftop party. It was just incredible. And I knew then that this was the life I wanted to live. I was like, yes, we are full speed ahead from here. And I even came home from Miami and told my husband we had been thinking about having a 3rd child. We were thinking about, different things like where we wanted our careers to go. And I was like, nope, I got this. I know that this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a novelist. Like, this is the world. This is the life I want. Little did I know, I was pregnant. Joke's on me. And not only was I pregnant, but I had just started my new job in academia, and I was on the tenure track, but I didn't know what tenure entailed. And I was told soon after that I really needed to get my butt in gear and focus on getting tenure, which included writing a nonfiction book and a bunch of articles and a whole bunch of other things that had nothing to do with fiction. In fact, it was subtly suggested that I stop thinking about fiction. And so I did. I spent the next several years grinding, turning out not one book, but a book and a half, because I updated Hair Story, which came out originally in 2001. We wrote an updated version. We updated the text, added new chapters. That came out in 2014. And then my next book came out in 2016. It was insane. I was a maniac, and I had a new baby and 2 other kids. So long story short, I wasn't doing anything as far as moving my career forward as a novelist. I actually did write a young adult novel before, while I was waiting for the Substitute Me to come out. I sold it to a big 5 now, publisher. But between having the baby, going up for tenure, I just dropped the ball on that novel. And the editor who acquired it moved houses and left the book with nobody, or maybe somebody. I don't even know. Needless to say, it got forgotten by everybody. And I did work on a novel manuscript in fits and starts, literally over 6 years. And that was just kind of in the background, but it was way, way, way down on the priority list. Needless to say, by the time I got tenure, I was exhausted, as I mentioned in my past video on writer's block. And I took myself to an amazing writing workshop with Hurston Wright, their Writers Week. And it was incredible. It was an amazing opportunity, but I was so exhausted. I couldn't take the feedback and do something with it. I spent the next year and a half just letting my brain go, waiting for the spark to write again to come to me. So now that I look back on it, I can give myself grace and say, yes, I dropped the ball. I stopped prioritizing my fiction, even though that was my dream all along. When I look at that picture of me at that book party, and I know I was like, this is just the beginning. I am full speed ahead from here. The next book is going to be better, bigger, better, everything. And I almost cry because I'm like, why is it 10 years later that like my next novel is coming out? And again, thanks to this confessional video here, I realized that, it wasn't like I was sitting around eating bonbons, just wasting my time. I was busy. I was doing good work, but I was not working on my fiction. I was not improving my craft. I was not getting that next book out. So that is the confession that, yeah, I dropped the ball, but I have to give myself grace because it was necessary. Like I had to do what was necessary for me, for my family, and my career. All right. Confession number 3. You can take the girl out of America, but you can't take the America out of the girl. So I moved to the south of Spain as an artistic choice, okay? I did not move here because I was fleeing the United States, because I was trying to get away from the political situation. None of that. I moved here because I was ready, finally, to focus on my fiction. And because of the way we ran our household, I was in charge of tuition for our children, like college tuition and healthcare. I worked in academia. What that meant was that once I was tenured, my children could get a college education for free. And our healthcare came through my job. So if I decided that I was going to quit my job and just work on my fiction, my kids would not have a college education, and we would all probably die from some sort of disease or, end up in debtor's prison because we would go broke trying to pay for healthcare. So the decision to move to Spain was a practical one because college is very affordable in Europe and because healthcare is very affordable in Europe and it's not tied to a job. You have to pay high taxes because you pay into the system, but then you can use the state system of healthcare, and even private healthcare is affordable. So that was the decision, moving to Spain for artistic, practical purposes. And what did your girl do when she got here? Did she jump into her fiction career? No. What did I do? Girl, I started a business. I started a whole business. I started a business and I took on some nonfiction, like serious nonfiction work. I wrote 2 books as a ghostwriter, nonfiction books. I just kept up the same routine that I was doing in the United States. And the business had nothing to do with writing, but it was like I was so hardwired to think that you can't just write fiction. You can't just do that. That's frivolous. That doesn't make sense. You're fail. You're going to go broke. Your kids are going to go hungry. Like, I just couldn't do it. Thankfully, I had really good writing partners who, when we would check in, finally, almost a year and a half later, one of my writing partners said, "Didn't you move to Spain to write fiction?" And I said, yes. And she's like, "Are you writing?" And I was like, "No, because the business, da-da-da." Long story short, she made me do a serious hard stop and reflect on what it was I had upended my entire life for and why I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do. And I literally, over the weekend, I let that all sink in. And I woke up on Monday and shut down the business, cried, was totally embarrassed and mad at myself because I had wasted all this time, money, not only mine, but the clients that I had acquired. And I had to just say, before this goes any further, I have to shut it down because this is not what I came to Spain to do. But it just took me my friend saying, "Why are you there? What are you doing to follow your writer dreams, your fiction dreams?" And then it was like, wow, I am so indoctrinated into capitalism, into work and grind and hustle culture that I can't let it go and do what I said I was going to do. So I shut down the business, finished the writing clients, and then decided that I needed some sort of transition to figure out how to be a full-time creative writer. And so what I did, I said, I need to get help. Maybe I need a coach. Maybe I need to do some programs. So I started researching, and I found this great guy who literally offered a course on reconnecting with your creative self. I was like, yes, this is what I need. Then I saw the price tag and I was like, no, this is not what I need. I mean, it sounded great, but I was like, I'm not paying all that money because that's crazy. And so I looked at his curriculum and, pulled some things from there. I got The Artist Way, Julia Cameron's, classic, and some other ideas. And I created my own curriculum. I didn't just wake up every day and say, I'm going to try to do something. Like, I had a very specific 100-day curriculum for myself that included, I incorporated morning pages. I was writing poetry. I was taking walks. I was going on artist dates. I was doing different activities and journaling everything, okay? Keeping track of everything. I could show you, maybe I'll show you in another video, but what my 100 days of creativity was. The one thing I was not doing, though, was writing fiction. I was not working on a novel. It was not project-based. It was truly to reignite my creative energy, reconnect with what my goals were as a fiction writer. And by the end of those 100 days, child, you couldn't tell me anything. Then I was ready to get back into the stories that I wanted to tell. And it was like I was on like high octane. I was like, let's do this. So I worked on getting my young adult novel. I found it in the bowels of the publisher that had it. I had to go through all of this. Thank you to the Authors Guild. They helped me get the book out of purgatory, essentially. I went back to that novel that I had written kind of in fits and starts and rewrote that. And then I wrote a whole other novel. Yes, I did. I wrote a whole other novel that was truly inspired by this creative journey by Spain and by my own experiences. And I was like, boom, 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 girl, let it go, let it out. And it was glorious. Those were some good times. So the confession was that, yes, I wasted 18 months of my time here. But I always say that nothing's a mistake if you learn something from it. So in some ways, that dumb business that I started was actually very useful for the community I now run for BIPOC women writers. I did actually got some tools and some skills that I'm now using today for that. So that was actually, at the time I was just mad at myself for wasting time and money. But now I can see that business I started was almost like a precursor or a practice for what I really did, which was to create community for BIPOC women writers. All right. Last but not least, my last confession is what I call hurry up and wait is killing me. Okay, hurry up and wait is often a term used or a phrase you'll hear in the publishing industry. It's like there are so many deadlines. You got to get this done. You got to get get your book written by this time. Get the edits completed by this time. Get your query letter in before, the season is over. Hurry up. You got to hurry up. And also just the kind of external pressure. Hurry up and get your book written before you turn 40, before you turn 50, before you're 35 and you can't win that 35 under 35 award. There is that sense of urgency. And then the publishing industry works like freaking molasses. It's like nothing moves quickly in the publishing industry. Nothing. And so I am very bad at hurrying up and waiting. I have kind of done my work, and coming from a journalism background, I can write fast and I know I don't miss deadlines. I do not miss deadlines. If you tell me this book has to be done by this date, it's done. So the glacial pace at which publishing works irks me. It irks me. And right now I'm irked. I have a book, that novel that I wrote, my agent has it, and I am just in the hurry up and wait phase. And so Elizabeth Nunes, who was my mentor, advisor, teacher at the Hurston Wright and still continued to, give us good advice. She told us that the way you manage this life, because she was a serial novelist. I mean, I don't even remember how many books she wrote, but several novels, and they're all amazing. She told us that the secret to a successful writing life is that when you finish one book and you hand it in, you put it out in the world, whether you're handing it into an agent to sell or it's getting published, it's out of your hands. And what you need to do at that point is start another book. Get on to the next project. Do not dilly-dally. I'm not following her advice. That's the confession. She said, I don't know. Yeah, she said like a watched pot never boils, right? Like you sitting around waiting for the phone call, waiting for the email. What is that doing? Nothing. Like what is it doing? Nothing. So are you starting that next book? Confession? No. So just doing this confession, I realized I am not following her advice, and I am the one who's irked. And it's not good to be irked because you can't be creative when you're irked. You're not doing anything. So I am now literally doing this video. It's making me realize I have a novel waiting for me to edit, the one that I started working on back in I was doing tenure, the one that I workshopped with Elizabeth Nunez, and I rest in peace. I'm so sad that I did not get that book out before she passed, because I still probably will dedicate it to her, because she told me, you just need to sit down and write this book. And like I said, at that point, I was like brain dead. I felt brain dead. But what am I doing? I'm waiting. I should be writing. I'm waiting. I should be writing. There we go. All right. So those are my confessions. Thank you for listening. I feel so much better. And I feel like I figured out a lot of stuff. And instead of waiting, I'm literally going to turn off this video and go start working on that novel, because waiting around doing nothing is not helping. And who knows who's going to say, hey, what else do you have? Do you have something else ready to go? What if this novel that my agent has doesn't go anywhere? I don't want to be like spending 6 months crying. I want to say, well, okay, let's try this one. We have this one. What about this one? Right? So I'm going off to get to work. I hope that this confession / therapy session for me, I hope that it maybe inspires you to do the same thing. Like interrogate your behavior and your thoughts about your writing life, right? What are you telling yourself? What are you telling yourself that's not serving you? What are you telling yourself that might not even be true? Once you talk this out, do the confession. You don't have to do it on YouTube. You don't have to be a public confessor like me. I actually started this walking this morning. I started talking to myself, walking this out, thinking about what I was going to say and doing the confessions. And this is what I realized. But just that last line I just said, like, instead of waiting, I should be writing. That's original. That's original for right now. So do this, like do the therapy, do the confessions and see what happens, and see how you might, do an adjustment on your own writing life. Thank you all for listening, for being here. I hope that listening to me is helping you in some way in your writing life. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, sorry. If there's something you want me to talk about specifically about my writing life or about writing in general, please leave it in the comments, because I will make a video about it. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.